Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. It is November 14th, and you've reached Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, and my co-host was delayed at work, so she most likely will not be on the show tonight, but you'll see her next week. Before we bring on our guests, I have a couple of announcements, and then we're going to play a short video. I want to thank everyone who attended the National Black Book Festival last month, anybody who volunteered, anybody who was a vendor, an author, participating author, any book club that came, any other publishers, just everybody who came and supported the event. We appreciate you. And we are posting photos from the festival on our Facebook and Instagram pages. We've been posting them for over a week, and we're doing a few a day. We have a ton. We had about 500 photos and videos we have to go through, so we're still doing that, but we'll be posting for the next couple of months. So just check the site, the web, our social media platforms every day, and you'll see some new photos. Well, before we bring on our first guest, we have a video we're going to show you about Black Authors Matter TV. For those who are new to the show, this lets you know what we've been about for the last 3 years.
Since the Black Authors Matter TV live stream show and podcast launched in July 2020, it's been regarded as the platform of record for African American literature. Co-hosted by literary influencers Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson, the show averages 3,000 viewers and listeners every week. Every Tuesday, we interview a variety of movers and shakers in the literary world, including celebrities and media commentators, NAACP Image Award nominees and winners, historians, agents and marketing professionals, publishers, bookstore owners from coast to coast, book club facilitators, online book groups and book chats, book event coordinators, literary nonprofit organizations and projects, and, in some cases, Black Authors Matter TV has conducted one of the last interviews prior to a literary influencer's transition. In fact, since the show's inception 3 years ago, Black Authors Matter TV has interviewed more than 500 guests, and the list continues to grow. Engaging, relatable, timely, and, most of all, committed to excellence. Black Authors Matter TV continues to bring viewers the latest book industry news and new releases, and will continue to do so for years to come.
Well, that's a compilation video, and it tells you all about Black Authors Matter TV, where we've been and where we're going. So we appreciate our video production department for creating that for us. So without further ado, we're going to be bringing on our first guest, and her name is Gwen Sutton. And Gwen Sutton is a multi-published author. She has several books, and she has a brand new book that she wants to make you all aware of. So we are glad to welcome Gwen Sutton. And her first name, her nickname is the same as mine, but I'm pretty sure we don't have the same first name, but our whole names. But anyway, Gwen, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I am honored and grateful to be here.
Well, you're welcome. And I was saying we're both Gwen, but my first name is Guinevere, and I've only met 2 other Guineveres in my life. So all the Gwens I know are Gwendolyn. I think I met one Gwinnett. I met one Gwinnett, but
yes, I'm Gwendolyn.
Okay, yeah,
but no one calls me that.
No one calls me Guinevere. Everyone calls me Gwen. And when people occasionally assume that my name is Gwendolyn, I quickly correct them. Not one of,
I get
anyway,
that.
when you've been a long time client of ours for Kush City with several of your books, and for your most recent book you're promoting is called Brotherhood and Betrayal, and your subheading is The Preacher and the Pimp. And
Yes.
so, do you have a copy of your book handy that you can show?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is the copy right here. Can
Okay,
you see
you'll
it
have to
okay?
raise it up a little bit. Just make it higher. Yeah, there we go. So they're two, are they biological brothers?
Yes, yes, they are.
Okay.
They were raised by a single mom. They have different fathers, but they
Okay.
are biological brothers.
Okay.
But
So
they
they're not
end up,
twins. They're not twins.
they're not twins.
Mhm.
No, no.
Okay.
Troy is the oldest and Trey is the youngest. And they do end up in foster care, which is why they take two different paths in life.
Okay. So they both end up in foster care?
They both end up in foster care. I don't want to give the whole story away, but something happens to their mom early on in life. But she has instilled such a sense of brotherhood in them, even though they go their separate ways, they go on their separate journeys. But they do have a lot of issues and problems because you got one becomes a preacher, the other becomes a pimp. So how are they going to, walk together along the same path? But it's full of drama. It's full of, and what I like to do with my stories, I like to address social issues. And
Okay.
all of my books, starting from the very first one, deals with social issues. And do you mind if I give a little background about why I started writing?
No, that's what we want to know. That's what the
Okay.
readers want to know.
Okay. I started writing. I didn't intend to be an author. I didn't come out thinking I want to be an author. I want to write a book. But after I retired from the federal government, I kept getting this vision. And it was about a young man. He had everything going for him. Handsome, charismatic, athletic, intelligent. But he goes home one day from school break. He goes to his home on spring break. He goes into his bedroom. He takes out a gun and he shoots himself in the head. He takes his own life. And this is his first year of college. And I couldn't understand for the life of me, why, Lord, am I getting this vision of this young man taking his own life? And God put it on my heart. He said, I want you to write about suicide. And the reason he wanted me to write about suicide is because something happened to me when I was 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, my mother committed suicide. And she did this, it was a few days after Christmas. My father had passed a few days before Christmas. My mother took her own life a few days after Christmas. And it took me over 50 years to be able to really talk about it. I used to tell people, they used to ask me about my parents. I said, well, my mother passed when I was young. So my parents passed when I was young, but I couldn't talk about how she took her life. And when God gave me that vision, he was telling me, I want you to write a story about suicide because you have not sufficiently dealt with it. You have it's back there. It's back in your head somewhere, but you have not dealt with it. And he said, by you sharing your story, not only are you going to set yourself free, but you're going to set a whole lot of other people free. And so I said, Lord, are you sure? I never wrote a book. I don't know nothing about writing. And he said, I know, but if I tell you to do something, I already know you can do it. So I sat down with my little pen and paper and I started scribbling my notes. And I'm telling you, when God says he can bless you to do something, he really can. Because when I started writing that story, it was like I could see it in my mind. It was unfolding before me. And I was just writing what I was seeing in my vision that he gave me. So that's what started it all. I did not intend to write, but I wrote that story, and I'm gonna show you all a copy of my first book. This is the
Okay.
first book. It says
Okay.
all means all if you believe.
Okay.
And this one is the one that deals with suicide. And it's really helped a lot of people. It set me free. But there was one compliment, one feedback I got from a woman, and she told me, she said, you know what? After I read that book, I was finally able to forgive someone in my life. Evidently, someone who she loved dearly had taken their own life, and she could not forgive them for doing that. And then she read the book, and she saw that suicide is not about, it's about that person. A lot of times they're dealing with something that's so traumatic, and there could be mental illness involved. With my mother, she was a stay-at-home mom, and when my father died, she didn't have a lot of education. She had never worked outside the home. And it wasn't because she didn't love us. She was dealing with mental illness during the whole time. She was dealing with mental illness. And so when she took her own life, in her mind, she felt like we would be better off without her. She planned it. She had people there at the house for us. Her best friend down the street was in the house. The neighbor was in the house. So she had planned it. And that day she did it. I remember it was a beautiful sunny day right after Christmas. I went for a bike ride. And when I came home, she was gone. And I could not, when you're 10 years old, you don't understand the permanency of it. And it really got to me when I became a teenager and young adult and she wasn't there. And I just suppressed it. Even my husband, who I love dearly and have been married for 35 years, he didn't know until I wrote this book and I told him about it. And I said, you never even pressed me about it. He said, I couldn't press you about it because I could tell you weren't ready to talk about it. But that's how I started writing.
Okay, now all means all. Is that fiction or nonfiction?
All of them are fiction, but all of my books are fictions, but they're based on fact.
So so I have a question about what's the point of view for all means all? If does the main character commit suicide, or does, and if so, then does he do it? Well, if he's already committed suicide, you do flashbacks, or someone else talking about him?
Well, it opens up. I don't want to give too much away, but it opens up with him doing the act, but it goes back to show why he did it. And then about halfway, it goes to show the aftermath his suicide has on his family. And it's very traumatic on his sister, on his mother, on all of those involved. And it shows not only how it impacts them, but how it impacts you for a lifetime. I still am impacted by my mother's suicide to this day. I deal with it. Can I show a picture of my mother? I want to show you. This is my mother. This is her name was Leona Bell Smith, and she was the sweetest person. I thank her for the 10 years that she did give me. Those were the 10 most wonderful years of my life. So I thank her every day. I don't hold it against her. I know it was hard for her. She was in a dark place. It was the mental illness and all of that. And she really didn't feel like she had it in her to raise 4 children. I was 10. We ranged from the age of 10 to 15 at the time. So that's why she did what she did. And I forgave her and I love her with all my heart. And a lot of people are dealing with this suicide problem, but people don't like to talk about it. People don't like to talk about tough things. And that's what I write about. I write about the tough issues in life.
Did she leave a note?
She did, but I never read it. She left a note.
Okay.
She left a note. I'm being 10. They're not going to share it with me, right?
Right. Well, I didn't know if maybe I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Yeah. Questions that, the audience may want to know as well.
Yes, she did. She did, but I never saw it.
Never saw the note.
And it's probably good I didn't. All things for a reason. I don't think it would have done me any good to see the letter. My aunt, which was her sister, got the letter, but she didn't, I don't want to go into what she did with it, but yeah, there was a note, but some people do leave notes, some don't, but that's why I started writing. And from there, it just took off. And I assumed after I wrote All Means All, that was it. I was done. I had done what God had assigned me to do. But he gave me another story to tell. It turned out to be a trilogy. I call it a Faith Under Fire trilogy. Because once God saw that I trusted him enough to go ahead and do what he told me to do, and I'm a Christian fiction writer, but my books are urban, they're raw, they're intense, they're real. I mean, I keep it real. I'm authentic. I don't sugarcoat anything. If you're going to deal with these subjects, you have to tell them like they're TITs. And that's what I do. And then he told me to write a book called Endurance. And let me show you, that's the second book. This is Endurance, the second book in the trilogy.
Okay.
And this one is about something that I have no personal experience with. It's about child sex trafficking. And I said, well, why am I going to write about child sex trafficking? I don't know anything about it. And God said, didn't you do what I told you to do last time? I said, yeah. He said, I got a story for you to tell. So I sit down and I wrote Endurance, but I did my research and I talked to people who have been through it. And while I was writing it, a young lady actually that I knew went through it herself, a young teenager. So people don't know a lot about human trafficking and child sex trafficking, but I wrote about Endurance and I did a lot of research. So the book is real, it's emotional, it's raw, it's intense. Some people have told me, oh, it's too much. It's a little too real. It gets to me. It gets to my heart. And I said, well, if it's hard to read, if it's hard for us to read, imagine how hard it is for these young girls and boys to live this tragedy, this atrocity, this multi-billion-dollar business that is happening to our young people. And it could happen to anybody. No family is exempt. If you think your family exempt, you're fooling yourself. It could happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. It's happening in big cities. It's happening in small cities. It's happening overseas. It's happening everywhere. It's big industry. It's big industry.
Yeah, the child sex trafficking, it kind of was underground for a long time, and in recent years, it's become more prominent in terms of being in the news more and people becoming more aware of it. It's been very recent. I don't know if you saw the movie, The Sound of Freedom, that was in theaters a few months ago, several months ago. That was about child sex trafficking.
I didn't see that one, but I have seen some movies.
Yeah, it was an independent film, and it really brought it to light.
Yes.
And, it was very, I would say it's very, very moving. But there have been many instances in the news of late, and much of it is based on the immigration, with some children coming across the border in the United States by themselves, or being basically sold en route to coming to the United States.
Yes, yes. But it's a huge problem. And I don't think still it's getting enough publicity. It's not getting enough. I found an organization while I was doing my research. It's called Operation Underground Railroad. And I support that organization through some of the funds I get from selling my book. It's an organization that goes undercover. These men and women, they go undercover and they pretend that they want to buy children or rent them out, and then they go and they work with the local police in the area and they actually rescue these children. They do it here in the United States and they do it overseas. So what I hope that my books will do after you read them is inspire you to do something, to take some action. We can't do everything, but everybody can do something. I mean, you can skip lunch for a day and give that money to one of these organizations that's fighting human trafficking or child sex trafficking.
Now, do your books have, for example, your one on suicide and then the one on sex trafficking, do they have resources listed like in the book itself?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Organizations that people can support, or like a hotline, some organizations, if you are in the problem, this is a number that you call. If you are considering suicide, it's a number that you call, the suicide hotlines and things like that.
Yes, I try.
So are those in the book?
Yeah, I try at the end of all of my books, I try to put in resources. For example, if you look at This
Now,
one,
which book
this
is that?
this is Endurance.
Okay, all right.
And this has the organization I was talking about, Operation Underground Railroad. It also has some other organizations in it that you can call and help in some way. Get involved with it. What I try to do with my books, one, I have to entertain you because you got to be entertained to want to read the book. I try to entertain, I try to educate, and I try to inspire or motivate you to take action. Those are my goals. That's why I write. It's not all about Gwen Sutton. No, what I do is I use the gift that God has blessed me with, and I give all the glory and honor to God because I couldn't do it without him. So I'm just using a gift that he has given me to try to help others in some small way. And that's why I do it.
Okay, what we had a couple of comments from people in the audience. Well, this person asked, Essie Anderson said, bless you. And I think she misheard. She said, did you say your mom had 10 kids? No, she said her mom had 4 kids, correct?
4
But
kids.
you were 10 years old.
I was 10.
When
I was the baby. I was my mama's baby.
Okay. Yeah, some things are unimaginable, if you
Yes.
haven't been through them. I personally have never known anybody who committed suicide. I've heard it happening to other people.
Right.
And people they knew, but I've never personally known anybody
Yes.
committed
Yes.
suicide. And I can only imagine a person would have to really be at a low point where they felt like there was no alternative.
Yes. They feel like it's no alternative. And you know what? I remember my mother being happy that day. She was, that day she was happy. She was smiling. She had gotten dressed. She went to visit her neighbors. And we thought, mama is going to be okay. But that's the danger point. Sometimes they've made peace with it. When they've made peace with it, they can seem so calm and you wouldn't, and then it comes out of nowhere. And she was happy that day. And I think she had made peace with it. In her mind, she had made peace with it. So everybody's different. And I have a personal experience with it. And if you don't have personal experience with it, I don't wish it on anyone because it impacts you your whole life. You never get. I mean, you go on, and I've went on. Thanks be to God, I'm living my best blessed life. I mean, I didn't have it easy right after my parents died. I didn't have it easy. That's another story. But then when I got grown and got out on my own, God surrounded me by people who loved and valued me because I had low self-esteem and all of that. It impacts you in your heart. But then God surrounded me with women, strong, godly women who took me under their wing and showed me I had worth and showed me I had value. It made me want to do something with my life. And so I thank God for that because even though my backstory didn't start off the way, some people have these happy childhoods and I had a different story, but God surrounded me with his love and I have been able to live my best blessed life in spite of what I went through. We don't look like.
Yeah. Did all of your siblings, were you all able to stay together after your mother?
We were able to stay together. Thank God for that. And we were put with family. Thank God for that. So I just have to, I just say, thank God for that. We were able to stay together, but we all dealt with it differently. I would say that.
That's amazing. Now, we've never had a personal conversation. So I'm hearing, even though I have talked to you for several years.
Right.
But we've never talked about our personal experiences. And so I never knew that about you.
Right.
And that's an amazing story. I've heard about, this is the first time I've heard about someone whose one parent passed away and then a few days later, the other parent.
I think it was about a little over a week between the two. A little over a week.
I haven't, that's new. I mean, in terms of, every individual has a unique story.
Right. That's so
Just
true.
like we are all unique. We all have, we don't share fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't share. Our DNA is our own individual. There's no other
Right.
individual like each person, that any human that's ever lived is
Right.
an individual. So everybody has, even living in the same household,
Right.
you
Exactly.
we're different,
We're
Some
different.
of us
We're
can
different.
be very different.
Very different. Very different. Yes.
So, every person has a unique experience uh, that they can share. And that's something
Right.
that we learned early on doing this show, that everybody's story is different.
Right.
There might be some similarities to somebody else, but
Right.
no two people have the same story.
And
And
and what you go through does impact what you become in life. And
right,
because when I wrote my latest two books about two brothers, even though they had the same mother and they grew up in the same household, what they end up going through when they enter foster care really impacted who they become. But what I also try to show in these books is you can't necessarily judge a book by its cover,
okay.
because I mean, even though one becomes a preacher and one becomes a pimp, their stories are surprisingly similar. Sometimes it's even hard to tell who's the preacher, who's the pimp, because
Well,
they're
some
human.
people would argue that sometimes there's overlap,
There's
so
some overlap.
you never
There's
know.
some overlap. So you
Yeah,
and you can't really count nobody out,
that's
because
true.
some of the people in Brotherhood and Betrayal, the preacher and the pimp, you have prostitutes, you have pimps, you have, drug users and drug runners, and there's a bunch of different characters. So sometimes the people who we as a society deem as worthless and wretched and all of that, sometimes these people can actually rise up, and the people we put on a pedestal because of their titles and their status in life or their big house, they can fall down. The bottom line is we're all in the same boat.
But
we
we all come in the world naked,
Right.
and when we leave, we will be naked. I mean, they
Right.
put clothes on us, but you know, there's no human that doesn't go through birth and death. That's all part, and what we do in between,
Right.
that's up to us.
That's up to us. That's
Yeah,
up to us. So
right.
that's why I really press in Brotherhood and Betrayal, and I try to show that we should not go around judging or looking down on anybody just because of their circumstances, because you don't know the story behind why they became what they became. And if you had walked in their shoes, who knows what you would have become? You know
That's
what I'm saying?
true.
You know.
So can you share the cover one more time for your new book?
Oh, okay.
The new book, The Brotherhood and Betrayal. Now, I have a question. Are those two people models? Are those stock photos? Are those people you
These
know?
are, well, when I was working with my publisher to publish the books, I told them what I wanted. I told them I wanted two Black men. I wanted
Okay.
one to be, kind of conservative, and I didn't want to do the old school pimp. You know how the old school pimps with the gold teeth and the big hat and the chains. That's back in the 70s. These human traffickers out there now, these pimps, they regular looking brothers. You wouldn't even be able to know what they're doing, because a lot of them are doing this stuff online. So I wanted two brothers who looked, different in their attire and their persona. And so that's how I got this.
Okay.
That's how I got this cover. But
Okay.
and there's a lot of twists and turns in my stories. I like to keep you on your toes. I like
Okay.
to keep you on your toes. Now, there's two. This is a book set. There's book one and
Okay.
book two.
Okay.
They're a set. In
All
book
right.
one, I'm kind of setting the foundation. They're boys, they're young boys. So you get to see them as young boys and learn about them, their personalities and what forms them now. And the real drama will start in book two, but you have to read book 1 to get to book 2. And
Okay.
there's a lot of surprises in there. And there is a twist at the end I don't think anyone would see coming. As a matter of fact, if you see this twist coming, I want you to text me and say, I saw it coming. I'm saying, I don't know about that. Because I didn't even see it coming. Sometimes I be writing books and I surprise myself because it's a gift, it's a vision. I go with the flow. Sometimes I have an outline in my mind, but then I go in a whole different direction when I start writing it.
That happens as a writer, I can attest. Okay.
Yes.
Well, we're at the end of our time, Gwen. What we want you to
Oh.
do is let people know how they can get copies of your books.
Okay, you can go to my website. It's GwenSuttonGotBooks.com. Gwen Sutton got, America's Got Talent, GwenSuttonGotBooks.com. And you can get all of my books are listed on there. And I think I shared with you my Amazon authors page. I shared that link with you. I'm on Amazon. If you put Gwen Sutton Books, all of my books should come up on Amazon too.
Okay. Well, Gwen, it was nice finally meeting you.
It was nice meeting you too. I hate to end.
Yeah,
I'm having a ball.
It goes by very
It
fast.
goes by fast.
But thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV and continued success with your books.
And thank you so much. To God be the glory. And I appreciate everything that you are doing for Black authors. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
And you're welcome. All right. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. So that was Gwen Sutton, and she is an author of several books, and she has a new book that just came out. So we are going to go with our next interview, and what we're going to do is bring our guest on. And we have 2 guests, and they are co-authors of the book that they're writing, that they've written. And I believe they're both on one call. So we're going to admit them. And I do want to let people know we are doing the giveaway. We'll do it after this interview. And I'll talk about what book we're giving away when we get to that point. So we have Dr. Karida Brown and Charly Palmer, and they are authors of a brand new book called The New Brownies Book. And I'm a student of history, but this information on this book gave me some new information that I didn't know about. So I'm always excited to learn about new historical facts, especially as it relates to African American history and our ancestors and just everything that's done. So thank you for being on Black Authors Matter TV, and welcome, Dr. Karida. And I don't know, Charly, are you a doctor too? I need to say. Okay. I want to give you your due if you are. And thank you so much. Do you all have a copy of your book handy?
We do.
Wonderful. Okay, The New Brownies Book. And what I thought was so fascinating when I was reading about this, and I want you all to tell the story too, but for those in the audience, I didn't know that W.E.B. Du Bois and in the NAACP had started a book called the Brownies Book, and it was a monthly magazine for children of the Sun, which was us. And so a lot of people, they missed the work that was done in the early part of the 1900s, that Black people were doing some amazing things, and it was kind of known within our community, but some of the history didn't necessarily transfer. It definitely didn't get in the history books.
Right.
That's right.
Right. So keep in mind, one of the reasons that we don't know a lot about it is that it was financed by Dr. Du Bois himself. And so because he didn't get, or people weren't that aware of, and we don't have social media and everything like that, he didn't have enough subscribers. So the publication only lasted a year and a half. And that was 1920, 1921. So if you could imagine, by 1930, we're not talking about it anymore. No one really knows about it. There's very few, and we've looked around. It's very difficult to find an actual copy. We've seen two, and they've been in museums behind glass cases because no one held on to these. It's like holding on to your Ebony magazine when you got it in 1965. Very few people actually still have their Ebony magazine from back then, but Ebony's been going on for what over 60 years. So some people do have older copies, but with the original Brownies publication periodical for the Children of the Sun, those copies, the last copies were produced in 1921.
Wow, that's over 100 years ago. That's amazing.
And Gwen, thank you so much for having us on Black Authors Matter. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for engaging with our book, the new Brownies book, A Love Letter to Black Families. I just want to piggyback on why the original Brownies book was so important. I have to share this as a scholar. So I'm a sociologist. I'm a professor at Emory University. I've also taught at UCLA. All of my research focuses on two things: the history of systemic racism globally. Okay, that's one bucket. And the other bucket is Black history and culture, which are two different things. We are not the system that and conditions under which we live. So I tell a lot of stories about Black joy and community in my research as well. And I've been researching and writing about W.E.B. Du Bois for a decade now. I've got books about him and I know everything about his scholarship, or so I thought. But in around like 2017, when Charly and I were still dating, I was doing some research for a book that I was working on Du Bois, and I discovered these letters in W.E.B. Du Bois's archive, where he was writing to literati of the Harlem Renaissance, Nella Larson and Zora Neale Hurston and Hilda Rue Wilkerson and so many others, asking for a piece of their best work, original work, so that he may put it in his new magazine called the Brownies book, so that Black children will know that they are loved and cared about. And he also said in those letters, and I can't pay you right now. Maybe I can pay you something next year, but I still need you to give me a piece of your best work. And that blew me away. That's how I found out about the Brownies book. And Gwen, it is the first periodical in American history to feature Black children as a matter of joy and consequence. So I just want everybody out there to just understand that the Brownies book is an American treasure. It is a part of our collective family heirloom. It is so very important, but as Charly mentioned, it was only around for a year and a half, so it came and went, and there are very few records of it left. And that's why it was so important for us to 100 years later create the new Brownies book in the same spirit that Du Bois put together the original.
Well, it's amazing to even think about. But one, we're still wanting to create literature that makes Black children feel included. We're still fighting that battle, so to speak, even 100 years later. We have some periods where it seems like we're making breakthroughs. It's like stops and starts. We'll have some expansion and then it'll be like a dearth. And then so we're still working on that, because putting something positive and talking about joy with children impacts them for life.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to know that there were people, well, of course they were, but they were thinking forward. 100 years ago, they were thinking forward. Now, you said there's a few copies or a couple of copies. Are they in the African American Museum of History, the national one in Washington, or are they? Do you know where they're archived?
They are archived, and there's one copy at the Schomburg Center for African American History and Culture in
Okay, in New
Harlem.
York. Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I also know that the University of Michigan has a copy of the Brownies book, but these are super rare artifacts at this point.
Wow. Yeah.
But we're lucky because the Library of Congress has had the forethought to digitize the full run of the Brownies book. That's how we all have public access to it. So you can go online and look on the Library of Congress website, and you can find all the issues of the Brownies book digitized in black and white. But to actually physically hold one, you know where I bet you they are? In your grandmama attic. Okay. Black
Oh,
people basement. That's
it-
where they are. They're in our home somewhere because
okay.
these were the books. Think about this. When your grandmother and my grandmother were children, these were the first books that they had access to with representations that looked like them. They saw this book. And I bet you some of y'all have a Brownies book in your in one of your family's homes.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with an elder that told me that she never saw a copy, but her mother always talked about it. And this is her mother as an older person telling her daughter about this magazine that came out and how much she loved it. So this person saying, I've never seen it, but my mom used to always talk about it. And so like, and she informed me that her mom recently passed. And I'm like, go see if there's any boxes or anything your mom kept, any kind of magazines or books or anything, and by chance there might be a copy in there.
Yeah, that's true. Now, my family, my grandparents were not educated, so they were in the rural South, and they only went to like the third grade. So I doubt they would have had any copies of. They didn't even have Ebony and Jet. Now my parents had, but my grandparents, I don't remember them having any magazines or books. Well, not that were theirs. Some of my cousins would have books there that they were reading while they were there, but you know, you probably had to be in a city to get those. Maybe I don't know. I'm just surmising. You
Yeah,
know.
and um, I will say, Gwen, that myself as I'm an old millennial, meaning I just made it onto the cusp. Um, I did not grow up with books necessarily in the household, in my household, or fine art. I remember Jet and Ebony. My parents
My parents. Mhm.
swore on that, so we had that. And we had used encyclopedias that my father, who was a garbage man, daddy would go get those old encyclopedias from rich white folks' house when they would throw them out. Those were the books that I had access to in my household. But my mother always took my brother and I to the public library. And
Mhm.
that's how I was exposed to books. But like you, my grandparents, they had a third grade education. However, I will say that one way that the Brownies book and the Crisis magazine, which was
Yeah.
also
Mhm.
edited by
Mhm.
W.E.B. Du Bois as the media outlet for the NAACP, um, folks didn't necessarily have to have a subscription. It didn't necessarily have to be in their homes. Why? Because those magazines were traveling with Black folks during the African American Great Migration. Remember, we were on the move during this time. So
Right.
those
That's true.
magazines
Mhm.
traveled on the trains, they traveled in churches. Folks were passing these materials around to talk about what our dream horizon could be. And that's what the Brownies book did, but that's also what the Crisis did, the Chicago Defender, so many of our outlets of the Black press.
Now, was the magazine, did it have photographs, or was it just like articles and poems and things like that?
They always featured. They were some people would even send photographs of their newly born child, some toddler photos, a lot of high school graduation photos, and some situation photos. So they had all these great photographs, but they also had line drawings as well as paintings and illustrations.
Oh, okay. Wow. That would be amazing to see. I'm gonna have to to go see if I can pull it up online. Does the Library of Congress have their information where you can look at it online, or do you have to go there?
You can look at it online on the Library of Congress website. So if you just type in the Brownies book, W.E.B. Du Bois, if you see the Library of Congress link pop up, you'll be able to see it. But one thing that we wanted to make sure to do, Gwen, in the new Brownies book is to make sure that we're hearkening to the original. So we've republished many of the images from the original and some of the literature from the original, including works by Langston Hughes and other poets and authors. So you'll get a lot of new school in the new Brownies book. There are original works from 50 Black artists and authors of today who are living, and also many contributions from the original Brownies book. So you can kind of see the legacy carrying forward.
Wow. Now did you mix them together as you went from page to page or section to section, or do you have like an old section, new section separation in the book?
It's actually a combination, but a lot of the earlier works are shown in the early pages of the book. There's an intro, there's a statement that Karida wrote about Du Bois telling his story. Then there's an intro, beautiful poem of Children of the Sun. And then they go into a kind of a mixture, but there's a whole area where it's focusing on some of the past images and writings. And then it goes into a lot of the most current works.
Oh boy. Now, how did you decide on your cover photograph?
Okay, so let me show this real quick. So this was the original, one of the original Brownie Books covers. See the little girl?
Yes.
Kind of as an angel. And so
Okay.
I thought I could always paint that, but I'm like, wouldn't it be great to use this image? This is by Toki Rome Taylor, and it was actually a print that we had on our wall. And we're like, that would be a stunning image for the cover of the book. And so that's where that idea came from.
Wow.
And you also can see it's gold leaf, so it's like a
Yes.
gold wrap around that's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
You know, and there's a lot of noted artists, writers that are a part of this publication.
So if someone were to open the book, what's one of the images from the book that you maybe like to share?
You know what Karida just did is a good example of what this book's about. You can grab any page, and she just grabbed a page.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh.
And this is a fantastic story about, what was it called? The Island of the Lost Fathers. And it's a concept of our Black fathers are out there. They just have been taken away to an island. And it's about a little boy's journey to find that island.
Oh, here's another great
See,
one.
she
I
just
wanna
randomly
show it.
grabbed another
I
page.
just opened at this page.
Oh.
This is a wonderful painting, an oil painting by James Ransom that's in the book. And
Okay.
corresponding is a poem written by Frank X. Walker, who is the former poet laureate of the state of Kentucky, who generously contributed to the Brownies book. But this poem is to his young son, Kumasi. But again, like Charlie said, you can flip open any page of this book and you're just going to get wonderful art.
Amazing.
You're going to get poetry. You're going to get short plays and essays and funny stories and games. And that's what it's about. It's supposed to be meant to be like an intergenerational book. So yes, it is geared towards Black youth, but it's meant to be for Black families. And that's why we called it a love letter to Black families. We want parents and grandparents to experience it with their kids. And we've got some old school stuff that will hearken to our generations in the same way that it will to young folks.
It's interesting that you mentioned Frank X. Walker, because we have an awards process that we call Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards.
Oh, wow.
That we do. And we started it last year, and then we continued it this year. And people submit books, and we have a panel of judges that reviews the books. Well, Frank X. Walker won the grand prize this year, and he won in his category for educational for his book. A is for Affrilacia. I don't know if you read
Yes.
the new book. He
I
won.
love me some Frank X. Walker. I can tell you that much. He is a prolific, brilliant Black mind, creator, genius. That makes us so happy to hear that there's that continuation of legacy and collaboration here. It makes us super happy to be a part of this.
Yeah, there is. That's just amazing that you turned to the page where his picture was, that his information, and that's like random, but I'd say most things, they might seem to be random, but they really are not. So that's really great. Now I want to have some share with the audience what some of the audience is saying. And one of them says they have a few copies of a Black magazine called Sepia that her parents purchased in the 1960s. So that's, there were some magazines that were doing for a time period, and they discontinued because magazine publishing is tough. Well, today it's even tougher with the digital world we live in. But John Johnson, he did some major things to keep his stuff going, and that story, if you've ever read his, I don't think his autobiography is still in print, but his story is an amazing story about how he launched Jet and Ebony and what he was up against and how he kept it going. So someone else mentioned they have a copy of your book, and they say they love it. Ignatius Aloysius, he says he has his copy and loves it. And somebody else said they had never heard of it, the original Brownies book, but they will be buying the new Brownies book. So
thank you.
Yeah, so I just think it's amazing. So what do you want people to, what's the main message you want to send, or the main legacy you'd like to leave with this book? And, well, let me backtrack. Is this your first book that you collaborated on?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I said it quickly because Karida had 2 other books that I did the artwork for the cover, but that's the extent of my involvement with her other books.
Okay. But this one was a
First one
collaborative project that you worked on together. And it sounds like you all, there was some romance going on either before or after. And are you all married now, or?
Married, yeah.
We's married now.
You never know. I don't want to assume anything, but I did say you were dating. You said you were dating. You mentioned you were dating during something.
Right. So I've illustrated like 12 children books, and I've authored one. And what happened was we were talking once early on in our dating process, and I'm like, "You're a writer, and you're like a brilliant writer, sociologist, Black historian. If you were to write a children's book, what would it be about?" And I think Karida thought about it a little bit, and then remembered the research she had found out about the Brownies book. And she literally found about a month and a half ago, she found that initial email where she says, if I was going to do anything, I would bring back the Brownies book. And I think, but she said, and if I don't do it, someone should. And somewhere along the line, we decided that we're perfect for it. Like, we did what Du Bois did, was, although, we have, we can text message, we can email, we can call people, we can even, I think we can still fax, I don't know. But we knew of all of these people that were writers and artists. And they said, you know what, we know a lot of people. And then, quite honestly, there are a few, Gwen, that we didn't know, but we knew of. And we're like, well, we can always ask. And we're not afraid to get a no. And like people ask a lot of times, how do we select the writers and the artists? We had a list that was much bigger than the list that we started with, but we didn't expect everybody to resoundingly and without any doubt say, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. I hear what I want to do something. And we never attached what you should write or paint or whatever. We just said, give us your best. and we'll make it work.
Oh boy, that's really good. So you have 50 other people besides the two of you that have contributed to the book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like an anthology almost,
It is.
in many ways. But because it harkens back to previous work, it's like a historical anthology. And that's just really, really great that you all brought this back. You know, there's more and more because I tell people we've been doing this show for over 3 years. We've interviewed over 500 people.
Thank you.
We're getting close to 600. We're getting close to 600 that we've interviewed. And there's a lot of history being resurrected that was dormant, that people didn't know about, or nobody wrote about it, or it wasn't commercial. It was only in universities and colleges, and it wasn't for the public to enjoy. It was more like textbooks. And now, since we've had this show, there's been so much historical. There's so many books on different historical topics. A lot of historical fiction is also coming out. Some of it based on real people, or there's real life situations. So you all are all part of that resurrection of history, things that we should have known about and didn't come to light until now. And it's just great. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for what you do.
We're honored to, take the torch. And quite honestly, we've talked about this before. Although the original magazine, because the boys was very actively involved, would be a call and response. So people would send letters, mostly little people, young people, and he would respond to them. And so we thought about this and said, you know what, this might be one of those kind of situations where people, like after looking at the book, because it really is about love. It's not even about being Black, it's about being human. Like he said in the original publication, is that it's for everyone, but especially for us. But it's also, when we say for everyone, when anyone reads this book and sees these images, they'll know it's for everyone. There are very few stories in here about being Black. There's a lot of stories in here about existing and being human. And that's one of the things that we kind of intentionally try to do, is to not let people, because it is for us, but it's about how broad a range our topics are, our thoughts are, even a sense of humor and everything. Like, it's a little bit of everything in this book.
Yeah, we're not in a box. We
Yeah,
are the fullness of the human experience. So we've got everything from, when it comes to art, we got figurative art, abstract, sculpture, we have comic strips. There are all expressions of the artistic landscape and all genres of literature. There is poetry, there are essays, short stories, historical pieces, and everything in between, even short plays. Langston Hughes's first published short play is right here in this Brownies book as well. And then we've got a Fisk University student, Jasmine Mitchell, who wrote her first short play, and we've also published it alongside his. So it's just this bold statement that we are universal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
well,
it.
we are. And we're not like a subgroup.
That's
We
right.
are a cultural group. We do have a culture, we have a history, but we're human beings just like everybody else. And we go through the same life cycle and emotions and have the same drives, the same things that drive us. Now, how long did it take you all to put this all together, to get it from
Well,
now? Did you all go through like an agent and major publisher, that process? So normally that's a 2-year thing from getting signed to getting the book out.
yeah. And keep in mind, again, we had 50 people that we had to
Right.
manage. Most
All
of
right.
them,
Okay.
but we went to like an agent that I already had and told her, hey, shop this idea. And so Karida, created a very strong proposal, and so she was able to present it, and then we were able to pitch it. And Chronicle Books published this. And what I have to acknowledge, Natalie Butterfield was our editor. She gave us patience because there were times when we wanted to redo something or add something to it. There's a whole section on honoring sheroes, on Black women. And there's also a little quiz at the end, like, can you identify, do you know these people? That was last minute because one of the students that we had working with us, or Karida was working with, said there's not enough acknowledgement of Black women, and we need to do something with that. And so we said, hey, Natalie, can you give us some time? We have an additional idea to add to the book.
It goes on the heroes section, and there are 26 Black women historical figures featured in this section. And I would dare y'all, when you get your Brownies book, do the test. Can you name them all? How many can you get? Go through these with your family. It's super fun, and I can tell you, I shared it with some of my other Black academic friends who are, you know, scholars of African American history. I haven't found one person who gets them all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just a reminder, there's always something to, we're always all lifelong learners.
You're right. Well, we're at the end of our interview time, but we want people to get a copy of the new Brownies book. Can you show the cover one last time? And then I'm assuming it's available wherever books are sold. Do you have a website where people can get them directly from you, autographed or anything like that? Do you have anything like that going on? Or they just buy? Or are you doing a book tour? This is my last question because we're at the end of our time.
Okay, this is our first time sharing this in a public forum because we just completed this today. So yes, you can absolutely order your copy of the Brownies book anywhere books are sold, online or at your local bookstore. Support independent Black bookstores, they have them. But if you want something special, especially for the holiday season coming up, we just put together a Brownies book gift box. Mm-hmm. That has a signed frame print of Charly's, of a piece from within the book. It comes in a beautiful box. There's some other Brownies book treats in there, and that will be available for purchase on charlypalmer.com, on Charly's website, and we'll be putting an announcement out on his Instagram and on our social media channels for where you can get that. Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful gift for the holiday season, and that's just not us saying it. I hate to brag, but Oprah just put us in Oprah magazine and said every family needs a copy of the Brownies book, so we agree.
Oh, well, breaking news all the way around. Congratulations on that. Okay, well, thank you so much, Karida and Charly, for being guests on Black Authors Matter TV. This book is amazing. I hope you sell thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of copies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a great evening.
Bye, Gwen. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Well, we are bringing on our next guest. I do want to mention the book that we are going to be giving away tonight. And this book is called Treasure Island Runaway Gold. It is by, I don't know if you can see that, it is by Jewel Parker Rhodes, and she's done a lot of work in young adult fiction and all kinds of books. So her, the trivia question for this book is, to win this book is, Zane, the book's main character, has a dog. What is the dog's name? So this Zane is the main character in the book. It's not the author's Zane, but this is a character in this book. Treasure Island Runaway Gold. And the first person to answer correctly gets a copy of the book. So we're bringing on our next guest, and it is Ralph Hawthorne. Ralph has a new book out, and it's called, let me see, it's an autobiography, I know that much. It's called, and we've had two books on tonight. This was not planned. This is not intentional. It's just coincidence, that have a preacher and a pimp in the title. So this is unprecedented, actually. But his book is called Pimp, Play, Preacher. It should be Player, Preacher? Yeah, Player. Ralph, you need to unmute your mic and Pimp Player Preacher. Because on your form you put player. I thought it should have been player. But his
Yeah.
book is autobiographical. So the other book was fiction. Ralph is telling us his book is not fiction. It's autobiographical. And, well, Ralph, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you.
I'll tell my other little anecdote later.
Okay.
But, well, welcome to the show and congratulations on publishing your book. I believe this is your first book.
It's my first book, self-published.
Yeah, and this is what I heard through the grapevine. I'm trying to figure out, maybe you told me. Yeah, you told me. You attended the National Black Book Festival in 2022, and you met the people from Amazon KDP. They're
Right.
one of the sponsors, and they sponsored it last year and this year, and I think they sponsored the year before too. And you learned all about how KDP works, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. That's Amazon's self-publishing arm. And then you took the reins and you took it and ran with it. And this year you had your book, but you weren't able to sell it at the event because we were already sold out of space.
Right.
But you were in the room and you made yourself stand out.
I was trying. Okay, I made myself stand out. All right.
Make yourself stand out.
That works.
So tell us a little bit about how you took the information that you got and what was your process for getting it done in terms of getting your book actually published?
It took me a while to do this book, first of all. It came to me at one point. I was in a dream. I had a dream, and in this dream I saw books. I was laying in the middle of the floor, and the books were all the way from the floor to the ceiling, and the labels were showing. And because I was a high school dropout, I thought that this vision was about me going back to school, which I did. But later on, when my good friends kept insisting that I write a book, they knew my background, and they kept insisting that I write a book. It was then that it dawned on me that I'm supposed to be an author. And I started to write and I stopped because some of the material that I was writing about, I'm not proud of, but it has made me who the man I am today. Some of it was very painful, and it was difficult for me, being a born-again Christian now, to revisit those feelings. So I put the book down and I stopped writing. And my wife got on my case and said, it's time for you to pick that book back up. And in the meantime, I had other people in my ear, Marthetta Davis, Marthetta Carroll, and Doris Foote. They were in my ear constantly. Everywhere I turned, they were saying, "Where's that book? When are you going to get that book? Where about the book?" And so I decided to go ahead and start writing, and it all just started to unfold. It wasn't that I had to think about a lot of it because it was my life experience. It was my life experience. The second part of the book, you read the first part, Pimp, Player, Preacher, but the second part of the title is My Life of Gangs, Guns, Drugs, and God.
Okay.
So the book isn't about, some people may have thought originally, as soon as they see Pimp and Preacher, they think they run it together and say, okay, a pimp and preacher. No, that's not what the book is about. A pimp and preacher. So the book is not about a pimp and preacher. It's about my life, how I grew up in poverty. I grew up around pimps and players and hustlers and drug dealers and all of that. And when I got older, let me just put it this way: when I got older, I got involved in the pimp game. And I promoted women for prostitution around the country. As the young lady said earlier, now they're doing it online, but old school, you know, we used to go around the country. And, in that, there was a lot of gunplay. There was a lot of drug activities. There was a lot of incarcerations. I write about all of that in my life.
Okay, so you were actually incarcerated yourself, or
I'm sorry. Yes.
you were
Yeah, I was
at one time?
everything. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, at one time, because some people use being incarcerated as a way to change their lives. If some people are better after they come out than they were when they went in.
Well, let me tell you, I started when I was 9 years old getting incarcerated. And by the time I was 27 years old, I had a record. I had a serious record. And at 37 years old, I turned my life around as a result of having a supernatural experience in the backseat of a police car. It was God that spoke to me and said, son, you tried everything else. Why don't you just try me? I went to jail for 90 days and I studied the Bible, and God transformed my life. And it's been 29 years now.
Okay.
And I was not only, in the game and in the life, I was also a drug dealer, and then became a customer on supply, where I became a chronic drug addict. I was homeless. I burned all my bridges. I mean, I did it all. And it was as a result of that incarceration, I used it as an opportunity to get myself cleaned up, and then talk to God about what he had just talked to me about. And it became real in my life. And as a result, I started a few programs, and Let's Talk It Out. Well, I was instrumental in helping to start the Let's Talk It Out, Not Act It Out youth outreach ministry. It was a city ministry. It was a citywide ministry that we reached out to at-risk youth and created a platform for them to talk it out and not act it out. And then I went on to work with the mayor's office in our city to develop a program called Ceasefire. It was a campaign to stop shooting and killings in the neighborhoods. And I had a team of outreach workers who went to the streets and mediated conflicts to keep people from killing each other. But yeah, I got a long history.
Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rockford, Illinois.
Okay, Chicago area.
Yeah, 80 miles northwest of Chicago.
Okay.
Yes.
And and now you live in Houston.
I
right?
do. I live in Houston. I've been here for about 8 years now.
Oh, okay.
You was going to ask me how I got here?
Well, the weather's different.
The weather's nice. Yeah, well, it was really hot this summer. I mean, it was in the hundreds. Hey,
I've been in Houston. I'm not from here. I'm from the East Coast, but I've been in Houston for a couple of decades, more than a couple. But this summer was the worst.
That's what I heard.
I've been here. We normally have 95-degree days. It normally will rain every other day, even if it's just for 30 minutes. This summer, it was 100 degrees with no rain for days on end. And that is just something that we've never seen. It was hard. I was happy because I had already planned a cruise to Alaska. When I left here, it was 100, and I was gone for 11 days, and it was like 60. So, but it was unprecedented.
Nice.
But Chicago has some bitter cold weather. That whole area is very, very cold.
Yeah, well, when you grow up in it, you get kind of used to it. And I talked to an individual when I was out in Phoenix about living in the North Midwest, and I told him that you have to dress for the weather, but you have to put on layers of clothes. And he stepped back and he was like, "What layers?" Yeah, layers of clothes. He laughed at me and laughed. He had never heard of anybody putting on layers of clothes. You have to put on thermals with, 2-3 layers of the clothes on.
You
Yeah.
do. And once you move away from that cold climate, if you're gonna be here for any length of time, you have to give all those clothes up. 'Cause
Yeah,
you
I
can't
did a
wear
lot
out,
of
you
that.
can't wear it. You can't.
I did a lot of that. Well, I left Rockford. I left Rockford in 2007. I moved to Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for 8 years before moving to Houston. And speaking of the weather, I lived in Atlanta. There was a tornado. There was a hailstorm. There was an ice storm. There was a flood. Did I say a tornado?
Yeah.
Lord, and an earthquake. All while I was there. And I said, I'm out. I'm out.
You said it was a sign. Was that?
Yeah. No, my wife works in the medical field, and she took a job here in Houston. So she brought us here.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
welcome here. Now, I have some.
Well, here's my book.
Yeah, well, it's behind you too on the wall.
Yeah. Yep.
Isn't that the same? Isn't that your book's cover there?
Yeah.
So we've been looking at it the whole time.
Okay. I was hoping that you would be.
Yeah, we were
But
looking at
I
it.
do have a second book called Footprints in the Dark.
Okay. All right.
Footsteps in the Dark. It's overcoming addiction, alcoholism, and other addictions. It's what I use from a scriptural standpoint to get delivered from drugs and alcohol. But
Now,
anyway,
with all that you've been through, that you've described, this is just a rhetorical. This is just a question that just came to my mind. After going through that, is some of it that you get delivered just from living past it? Do you understand the question I'm asking?
no, I don't understand it. What are you saying?
A lot of people who go through drug addiction and all the stuff that you described, they don't live long. You know, a lot of their lives are cut short from being shot or having an overdose or being medically, like physically, health wise. If you're addicted,
I'm in 100%. I'm in 100% health wise condition, and thank God I beat the AIDS and HIV and all of that stuff, and I got a clean bill of health. When I think back of all my friends, I mean, I could name names that would just go on all night of people who lost their lives that did lesser things than I did that was out there in the life. And I know as a result that I am blessed. I am a preacher now. That's where the preacher comes from.
Yeah.
I was ordained in 1999 and licensed in 1999 and ordained in 2004. So
are you a pastor?
I do not pastor, but I am. I'm not on staff in any church. I do have a ministry called Beyond the Walls Evangelistic Ministries. My wife and I do evangelistic work.
Okay, and that's important because with evangelism you get to meet people where they are.
Exactly.
And a lot of times people who really need to, they won't go to church.
Exactly.
A lot of times they feel like before they go to church, they need to have everything right.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's why, our ministry is Beyond the Walls. My wife and I, we try to reach people where they are. And I reach a lot of people who are drug addicted and a lot of people who, they like the way I dress, right? They like the way I dress. And, for some of those people that's still in the life, I'm able to reach out to them as well because they recognize that I recognize. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they feel like you can relate to them.
Exactly. And so that's what, God has blessed me with a lot of experiences that I've had, and I write about all of them. In Player Preacher, My Life Against Guns, Drugs, and God. I write about them, and a lot of those experiences I use today in my ministry. let's say, you know, when I was involved with gangs, I was dedicated. I was in.
Mhm.
Well, I'm in for Jesus now. See what I'm saying? See
Yes,
the
I
pyramid?
do. I do.
And
Mhm.
so I'm in. I mean, I'm all the way in. It's not no lukewarm. It ain't no off and on. You know, me and my wife both, we've been walking with the Lord for 29 years uninterrupted. We've been together for 40 years.
So you
So you
met her while you were still
and
not on
that's
the straight
another
and narrow. I'll say it like that.
that's another book.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, because yeah, I met her. She was a preacher's daughter. She got addicted to drugs, and we were both had a drug-fueled relationship for 11 years.
Oh, boy.
And
PK
then
too. So
we
I
both
get
got, when I got delivered in jail, I started telling her about Jesus, and she was like, "Whatever you got, I want some." And I shared the gospel with her, and she gave her life to Christ. And we shortly after that we got married. And
that's
you know, so
wonderful.
we've been together 20. We've been married for 29 years. We've been together for 40.
Yeah, that's wonderful that you were all uh were able to overcome together and find Christ together, even
Yeah,
though you didn't start off that way. And it a lot of times when people who are in that situation and they have a mate that's in the situation, they're not able to stay together because
no,
the person who's still there is going to draw you back in.
very uncommon,
Yes.
very uncommon.
Mhm.
Um, and so therefore we both realize that we're blessed. We're not lucky. We're not fortunate. We're blessed. And we know that God's hand is upon us. And he has brought us through places that, like I said, a lot of people didn't make it. I mean, I got shot twice, but there wasn't life-threatening wounds. But I got shot twice. I OD'd 3 times. I could have been out of here. But God saw fit to keep his hands up on me for me to write about my experiences so that people can understand that it's not a matter of where you've been. What matters is where you're going. And with Christ, all things are possible. I want anybody that's going to a down. Listen, I had burnt all my bridges. I mean, everybody. Did nobody want to have nothing to do with me? I was out there.
Yeah.
And there's other people that's out there, you know, and I want them to understand that if what God has done for me, he can do it for you. He can do it for anybody that is willing to surrender themselves to the Lord and allow him to lead, guide, and direct their lives.
Well, that's wonderful. I want to just give you some of the feedback that we're getting from people who are watching. Some of them, I think they know you.
Yeah, I hit up a lot of people. I got 10,000 friends.
Oh, okay. Well, that's wonderful. Cousin Eva Marie says, Cousin Ralph, so happy for you. Congratulations. Okay, so you know who that is.
Yeah.
Beverly Williams Edwards says,
Yep.
Rockford's finest, we love him, and the beautiful wife Lisa. So she gave us your wife's name. You hadn't mentioned her
Yeah.
name.
It's Tina. It's Tina,
Mhm.
actually. Yeah.
Oh, well, she said, okay, Tina. And Michelle Green Johnson says, congratulations, Ralph.
Yep.
So proud of you. To God
Yeah.
be the glory. So it's
Amen.
more on like that, similar true story. Odessi says, Odessi Barmore.
Yes, that's my sister.
Oh, okay. I knew the
Well,
pimp preacher, Brother Ralph, back in the day. Thank God for saving my brother and his lovely wife. So you have some supporters out there that are
yeah.
cheering
Yeah.
you on. And
Yeah.
what advice would you give to a person who is out there, you know, in the life, and they really want to change, but they don't know where to start?
Well, I would first tell them that the thing that you have to remember about life is that it's not a matter of where you start, it's where you finish. And that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. No man could come to the Father but by him. For many of us, we've tried everything else in life. And that's what the Lord has said to me. You tried everything else. Why don't you just try me? I say the same to you. You've tried everything. You know, give your life to Jesus Christ. Give your life to Jesus Christ. He will change your life from the bottom up. And I don't mean, you know, in many cases, people give their life to Christ and they start going to church, but their behaviors don't change. Jesus will change your behaviors. He'll help you with the I can't help it. Amen. And so I would give that advice and reach out to me. I'd be glad to minister to people that's having a difficult time.
Okay. And if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a my book, first of all, my book is on Amazon and all other outlets. Okay. Both books. I have a site that if you would like my book autographed, you can go to bit.ly Pimp Player Preacher.
Okay, so it's a bit.ly link for those.
Yeah, it's a bit.ly link, Pimp Player Preacher. And you can go there, you can order the book, and I will send it out to you autographed. You can also communicate with me there.
Okay.
You can communicate with me there.
Now, do you go and do you speak to youth groups or, you know, people who are going through trying to, in some of the organizations where people are trying to overcome addictions and things like that?
I did that for many years, especially in Rockford. Jails, juvenile detentions, different churches, different groups. And as a result, that's why a lot of people were telling me, man, you need to try to get your message broader and write it in a book and all. But I don't do as much of it here. Maybe you can connect me with some people that can get me in. But yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah. Now, do you have children?
Oh yeah, I got 4 sons. Now don't y'all be clamoring over them because they are good looking. All 4 of them. Hey man, I have my oldest is 42. He was 3 years old when I met his mom.
Okay.
And then the other is 35. Don't ask me how old he is. I don't know.
No, I didn't. I just
I
wanted
know,
to
but I'm supposed to know.
Well, you know, every year it changes. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's a good excuse.
Sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, I am so honored to be here, Gwen, and I want to take my hat off to you because all my correspondence come from you. I said, this lady has got to be the hardest working woman in the book business because it appears that you got your hand in just about everything, all the moving parts here. So I salute you for all the hard work that you do. And to make sure that we all get our messages out into the arenas. Speaking of messages, my audiobook is coming out this next week.
Oh, okay. Now, did you do the voice on your audiobook?
I did not. No, I did not. I tried to get somebody to do that. But I did do, speaking, last thing, Rita Henderson, she did my book cover. I want to give her a shout out.
Okay.
I want to give her a shout out.
Okay.
And she did the book cover, and she kind of, was a little, she coached me along as far as getting myself self-published. I got it. As a result, it helped me to find a lot of people that was willing to pre-order my book.
Well, that was good.
I got a lot of pre-orders.
That's really good.
Yeah. So Yeah.
Now, who advised you about the pre-order? Since this was a new
Rita did.
concept for you.
Reverend
Rita did.
Rita.
Okay.
Reverend Rita did.
Okay.
That's her platform. You can look her up on Facebook. Rita Henderson. She's a beast at what she do. She really is good.
Okay. Yeah. I've never done pre-orders for my books, but
The way she tell it, you leave money on the table when you don't.
yeah, probably. But normally the window for when my book is going to be finished and when it's available is a short window. And plus, I don't want to be locked into a release date. I have 15 books, but I self-published them all. And I don't want to be locked into a release date that I don't fulfill it.
I hear you.
So that's one of the reasons why I don't. But I am looking into it. I'm not closed to doing it. I just haven't done it so far.
It was very beneficial for me.
Okay. I've heard that. I've heard that people, when they put the pre-orders out there, that they get a good number, and then when the book comes out, they just ship books.
Yeah.
And then the people order a lot of you can do it on Amazon pre-order, or you can do your own pre-order. Some people do it themselves.
Yeah, as you can see, I got a lot of friends. I have a site called the Rockford, Illinois Old School and Rest in Peace page. I know we're 1 minute over, and it's got 10,000 members from Rockford on it. So
okay.
I have a huge audience that I turn to when I'm doing what I do.
That you connect to. Now, our next guest is not on yet, so if we go a little bit over, then that's fine. And
okay.
I communicated with her earlier today, so I'm not sure what's going on. Somebody named Memoir Barnett said, "Keep up."
Yeah, Pastor. Yes.
Okay, keep up the good work. We always enjoy hearing a word from you.
Yeah, when I come to Rockford, he wants me to speak at his church. He wants me to get a hold of him first.
Well, your experience is multifaceted. Most people haven't gone through like half of what you've gone through.
And wait a minute,
I'm out on the other side.
You haven't read the book yet. You
No,
read the book
I'm
talking
saying,
to the audience now. You got to read the book.
Oh, okay. Well, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But just what you described, all the different things that obstacles that you had, and you were able to still come out on the other side.
I don't take it lightly either. I thank God every day. I mean, I had to wake up with myself, right?
Yeah.
I went from drinking alcohol to snorting cocaine to smoking cocaine to intravenously using cocaine and heroin. And I was actually diagnosed when I signed up for Social Security. They sent me to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist ruled me as a chronic drug addict with an antisocial disorder. And they said that I was that, and I would always be that. But if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. Since the old things are passed away, behold, all things become new. If you saw the picture of me before I got saved, you wouldn't believe you was talking to the same person. You wouldn't believe it.
Those pictures in the book?
I'm sorry. I do. You got to get the book.
Okay. Well, I'm just.
No, I ain't talking to you. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to
okay, the people out there.
I do have a picture of me in this book. Yeah. Okay. You wouldn't believe it.
Do you have any misgivings about letting people in on your shortcomings that you've had in the past?
No, I think that the problem with people who are now born again, they don't want to be transparent. They don't want to let people know that they've been there, done that. They don't want to let people know that they have issues. They've had issues in their lives. I don't have a problem with it. And the way that I got started sharing my testimony was that people, I got tremendous favor after I had gotten saved, and I started the youth outreach ministry. And I got citywide support as a result of that. And I said that nobody is going to be able to come behind me and tell my story because I'm telling it up front. Because people, I'm sorry.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, no, people will try to sabotage you when you're trying to do the right thing. And it's, oh man, that dude, he's just an old dope fiend, man. He was from, all of that garbage. I said, no, you're not gonna sabotage me. You're not gonna come behind me and try to tell my story. Let me tell it. And I tell it. Tells it.
Well, you kind of have a classic Christian transformation story, because just like Paul, Paul was a completely different person once he was transformed. And so we are supposed to really celebrate the transformation that people have,
Absolutely.
but not everyone's going to be in your corner
Everybody's
all the
not
time. It's just,
everybody's not ready.
yeah.
I had a lady who, greeted me every day when I come to church, every time we go to church. And I sold her my book, and she practically stopped speaking to me. Well, when I presented my book to her, and she saw the Pimp play a preacher. I don't know what her thinking was, but she prejudged me. You're gonna have people out there like that. When I was at the church and I had my banner up, and we were having vendors and stuff there, I could hear people coming by saying, "Pimp player preacher." Ugh. So yeah, you're gonna have people who's not going to feel you 100%. But I ain't trying to reach them. I'm trying to reach the lost. I'm trying to reach those who really can connect with what I'm saying and want and desire to have the type of life that I have. I wouldn't trade my life in. I have no misgivings about none of the 29 years that I've been saved. I used to ride a dirt bike to the drug house.
Oh, okay.
But now I drive a Jaguar.
Okay.
Not to gloat on material things.
No.
I'm just trying to show that, when brothers see me, when I go back home and brothers see me, they be like, man, man, you really got it going on, man. How you get that? And
a lot of times people see the end, they don't see the process.
Yes, Lord, thank you.
They just see the outcome of what they see the outgrowth. They don't see the years that you invested in whatever it is that you're doing.
It takes a sacrifice to live for Jesus.
Yeah.
You have to let a lot of stuff go that you may have enjoyed when you was in the world. But I know I know enough now to know that somebody else's salvation depends on my obedience to God. Somebody else's salvation depends on my obedience to God. If I trip and fall one time, God knows how many people I'll take with me. Because that's how many people's eyes is on me. And I don't take that lightly. I bragged on Jesus. I told people about Jesus and what he's able to do and how he brought me out. I would not give him a black eye. I would not.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it. Now, I have a question for you about putting your story out there in terms of just the process of writing your memoir. What advice would you give to someone who was thinking about writing their life story or just their experiences, and there might be some hesitation, or it might seem daunting in terms of just getting it done?
Well,
What's some advice you can give to people? out there?
First of all, it starts with the writing, right? And you can't think that I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write this book. Some people is able to do that. Some people is able to sit down and just write the book, have it all together. I would advise anybody to just take one piece at a time. Take your time and just write one piece at a time. When you get writer's block, because that will happen when you start writing. For one thing, you won't believe what you have written. When you start looking back on what you've already written, you won't believe what you've already written. So when you get writer's block, just step away from it for a little while and go back. And the other thing is, what I learned is that people don't read as much as they should, as much as people used to read. And particularly in my memoirs and in memoirs, they want to know what it is. What is it that you're trying to get to? And so most of the time when you're writing, you might end up with 2 or 3 books in one setting.
Okay.
What I mean by that is that you can be writing, and you not know where the end is. You just continue to write. And before you know it, when you look at the size of your book, the spacings and all of that, compared to what you have is going to be in the book compared to what you have on paper, you may have a lot more than you think that you have.
Okay, that's good advice, because in this day of microwaving and people wanting things fast, if you have 3 books, it's better actually breaking it up into 3 books may be helpful, because then you've got 3 different products that you're selling, and people generally, unless they are avid readers, and that is a subset, that is a small percentage of the population that's
Sure.
avid book readers. So some people, 100 to 150 pages is about all they can digest.
Yeah.
And so that's good advice about breaking
Thank you.
into, parts, because some people don't want to read. Now, and it's also good advice as a writer, I would say, as a book writer, you have to end. Some people tell me they don't know where to end their book. And you have to decide, okay, it's going to end here, or it's going to end like this, or it's going to end on this date, or it has to have an end. Because you're right, you could go on and on and on, and people are not going to read a 500-page book. Very few. I will read a 500-page book, but it has to be a novel, most likely, and it has to really move. It has to be really grab me for me to get into that many pages. But I will read a lot of pages, but it has to be good writing and a good story.
Yeah.
But most people are not like me. I'm an avid reader and a writer. So
the other thing that I would advise a person to do is, this is what I was thinking when I first started writing. I started thinking about watching a movie. Me and my wife both, we like action-packed movies. And we can determine based off of how the movie starts whether we want to watch it or not.
Okay. Well, I like action too, so I'm with you on that.
and so let me read a little bit of the first chapter of my book.
Okay, now my final guest finally logged on. So can you keep it to one paragraph, and then let people.
Right. Well, let me just put it this way. No, okay. Let me put it this way. I started my book off with a police report.
Okay.
And it had everything to do with what happened. I'm not reading from it right now, just to sake of time. What happened in an incident that me and a couple of my friends went out and ended up with a kidnapping case.
Okay.
And all of the details that went along with it, and people tell me to this day, I got 5-star reviews on this book. People tell me to this day that they can't put it down when they start reading it. Can't put it down.
And that's always what we writers want to hear, that it grabs you, the subject matter grabs you. Well, Ralph, this has been an amazing interview, and you got some more time, and you had lots of support online. So let people know again, it's available on Amazon, but they can also get an autographed copy from you by doing the bit.ly link. Pimp, Player,
Preacher.
Right?
Pimp, Player, Preacher.
Okay.
The bit.ly link for those who are not familiar with it is bit.ly/Pimp, Player, Preacher.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Gwen. This has been fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been really enlightening, and I think it helped a lot of people. And our shows stay online, so in a week or so, we'll have thousands of views on this particular show. And so we really appreciate you being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. And I'm hoping to get me a table next year too.
Well, don't wait till the last minute. We sell out in August always. We always sell out in August. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, you too. Thank you. And you and yours.
Okay. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, we are going to bring on our final guest, and we don't have that much time left on the show tonight, but we are going to learn about Dr. Constance, and she talks about financial liberation, and she does money talks, and she has an event coming up soon. So we want to hear about that, and she's a financial liberation expert. And so we welcome Dr. Constance to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me, Gwen. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Awesome.
Perfectly and clearly. So how did you get to be a financial liberation expert? What was your path? What was your path?
People always ask me, I would say it's a untraditional way of getting here. I started out in the healthcare field back in the early 2000s, and my girlfriend was seeing that I was Googling things, going to workshops and seminars to try and figure out my own financial situation because I was a young mother struggling, trying to figure out money matters. And she was like, listen, every time you learn something new about money, you apply it, you see results, you're super excited about it, and you can't shut up. You tell people on the bus stop, people at the church, you just tell everybody in your family. And she's like, you could do this professionally. You could get paid to help people with their finances. And I was like, no, I hadn't thought about that. And she chased me for nearly 7 years in order for me to come to a meeting to find out what she was talking about. And when I did, I never forget, it was January 1st, 2009. It was a holiday. I had the day off of work. And I went to that meeting and I was so super excited because I then could see myself doing what it was that these people all around me that looked like me were doing in the community. They were licensed professionals. They made money matters fun. It was easily digestible bits of information. I was like, where has this been all my life? So I did get licensed pretty quickly, about 2 weeks after I took that informational meeting. I became a financial coach and an insurance agent first. And then as the years went on, I was like, listen, I want to get more and more knowledge about money. I want to be able to be kind of like a jack of all trades in the money space. I want to be able to help people fix their credit and get insurance and do investments and help them with their mortgages. And I just wanted to do it all. And then I realized that, you know what? You don't have to do it all. You have to just focus in on a lane of brilliance and then be able to build great relationships with other financial experts that are parallel to what you do. And that way they can still get what they need, even if it's not directly through you. You can make these amazing warm referrals to estate planners and bankers and loan officers and accountants and all of these great people and create a village, or what I would call a financial dream team. And that way, your client or your prospect can still get what they need, and you don't have to overwhelm yourself trying to learn all the things. But I have been doing this for nearly 15 years. I love, love, love everything about helping people understand the financial literacy element and also the empowerment element that comes along with that.
Okay, now you are doing a Money Talks. Is this you doing the Money Talks brunch this coming up soon?
That is me. Yes.
Okay, so what I like to, because I want to make sure people know about it so they can go to it and sign up and all that. It's in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yes.
And it is Sunday, January 14th. So if you're wanting to start off your new year with some financial expertise, tell us about what they'll be learning at the brunch. They'll be eating because it's brunch.
Yes, we love to eat, right? We got to get together, have a good meal, break bread.
Right.
But yeah, so the financial liberation brunch is really our first in-person gathering from the Money Talks Volume 3 book that we just put out about 3 weeks ago. It will be an opportunity for people to not just come out and learn about money, but they can actually get their hands on the Volume 3 book. They can meet some of the co-authors who contributed to the content there, and of course, network, that kind of thing. And, each author will be able to share some kind of tip, tool, or strategy that will be helpful for them while they're in this space. But we really wanted it to be a celebration of the financial literacy element, us being intentional. Most people say new year, new me, 2024 is my time. I've heard it already, but we want to capitalize off of that. If you're being intentional to show up in a space where there are financial experts there, they're easy to talk to, they have done this before, coming together to bring great content and to be that resource for you. A lot of us have pretty active social media pages. So a lot of what we do online is educational also. And now when you're in person with these people, you get to connect, engage, you get to get a sense of who they are, their character, have conversations. And I just love being able to be in a space like that where we can come together in the community and show that we're here doing the work.
Okay, now you talk about your book that just came out 3 weeks ago. Do you have a copy of it handy that you can show on the screen?
I do.
Oh, cool. Show us the book and tell us
Yes,
about the content. And that's you on the cover.
that
So
is me.
and it's
And
pretty
here's
thick. Okay,
all
so
the
it's
awesome.
contributed. So it's like a financial anthology, so to speak.
Yes, it
Okay,
is 236 pages. And so
that's
we
a
have
hardcover, isn't it?
it is a hard cover.
Okay.
And we actually have a toolkit. So this is what we call a paycheck power booster. And it is a calculator that you can use to save $1,000. You can't really see it, but there's numbers on here that represent small amounts of money, $1, $3, $7, whatever. And if you say you want to save, for example, $6.50 less a day, that would add up to $2,300 in a year, 11,000 in 5 years, 23 in 10, and $47,000 in 20 years. Just making it really tangible for you to say, hey, I have a goal. I don't know how I'm going to get there or how much it's going to take. And so we're not just throwing books at people. We've created a toolkit where you can get the knowledge, get the stories behind the people that are providing you this content. And now you have something tangible that you can say, regardless of it's $3 a day, $10 a day, whatever it is, I can actually get this thing done. So we launched this book on October 23rd, all over social media. We did earn Amazon bestseller, and we're going to celebrate together in January at the Liberation Brunch in Baltimore. And so people can meet these authors. These authors come across the whole nation. And this gentleman right here, Otis, is in Kigali, Rwanda. This young man right here. And he actually is coming to the States for the first time ever because of our book project and all of the energy around it. You know, he's getting his visa together. He's trying to come to meet the people. So I'm not just creating opportunities for people to learn about money and grow and become liberated. I'm creating tables for my peers to be able to get visibility, credibility, and yes, young Otis coming to the United States to celebrate his win in this book project too. So we're international with this book project. We are serving people. We are gathering together to show that we're out here doing the work, and we want to make sure that our people thrive.
Now that when you were explaining your tool, your chart,
Mhm.
talking about $6 and something a day, you know, what came to my mind was Starbucks for people who
That's what I'm saying.
there's one cup of coffee. I don't do Starbucks because
Yeah.
I don't pay $5 for coffee, but I
Yeah.
get a big. I go to Costco and get the big
This is a big
one.
one.
Oh, okay.
This is a big one, right? And so
Oh,
it
okay.
says vending
It's
machines,
okay.
snack, candy, soda, fast food, movie tickets, cigarettes, vapes, Netflix, phone apps, digital downloads. Like, it makes it really easy for you to figure out where you're going to find that $1, $2, $3, $10, right? And so
Yeah.
now we're not saying, I want to save $1,000, but it's really tight right now. Where am I supposed to get that from? This thing says it's in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
in your pocket. So we make it
don't
super
think
easy
of the
for people to take that challenge and actualize it.
yeah. Don't think of the 1,000 at the end. You have to think it's built little by little. And
Yes,
so people
every day.
are thinking in those terms. Now, we only have a little time left because we got started a little late, but I do want you to just share a couple of little known facts or ideas or principles that most people miss about finance.
Mm. So here's one, and you may have heard of it before, but it is called the Rule of 72. Are you familiar with that one?
I've heard of it, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay. So the of 72 is all about compound interest. So most of us would like to earn on our money. When we put it in some type of account, we want to make earnings on it. So even if we use very small numbers, right? We put 25, 50, $100, whatever. You put it in the account. The bank or the financial institution is going to offer you an interest rate on that money. Now, listen, we are not getting high interest rates at our financial institutions, but let's say that we are getting a reasonable one, a one that allows us to at least keep pace with inflation. So let's say around 3%. How the rule of 72 works is you take just basic numbers, 72. You divide it by the interest rate that your institution is offering you, 1%, 2%, what have you. You divide it by 72, and it's going to let you know how long before your deposit would double. So for example, if I put $100 in my savings account and XYZ Bank is offering me 3%, I take 3, divide it into 72, that comes up to 24. That means it would take 24 years before my $100 doubles to $200. That is a long time to wait for your money to double. So we can do one of two things. We can add more money into that account so that we can have a higher doubling amount, or we can get a higher interest rate so that we can have higher doubling amounts, or we can do both. So the idea is financial fundamentals such as compound interest, along with dollar cost averaging, along with the wealth formula. These are all basic things that you can understand as it relates to being consistent with putting your principal or your money somewhere. And you ultimately want to see growth, whether it's capital gains from being in the market, whether it's an interest rate that you're earning at a financial institution. The point is, we can't just say that we want growth. We actually have to do something, and then we have to be consistent, and then we have to get out of our feelings. Now, I know that when the market is volatile and there's fluctuations going all willy-nilly, we don't always feel good about seeing our account balances go down due to no fault of our own. But we need to not be so emotional about these kinds of things. And when we do something called dollar cost averaging, it allows us to be consistent with our deposits in whatever account or vehicle we're doing so that we can ultimately see the results, and we can stop being so reactive to what it is that we're seeing in the market. If you have sat with your advisor, or if you have even used some of these robo advisors and they have created allocations for you that best suit you, then please stop getting in your feelings and jumping in and out of the market. Because one thing I know is that we are not gypsies. We cannot dictate what the market is going to do, but we do know on average, the market returns over 10%. At least it has done that ever since inception of 1957. So I just wanted to share that bit, learn the financial fundamentals, be consistent with it, and you will see results.
Okay. Well, Dr. Constance, we're at the end of our time, but let people know how they can get a copy of your book.
Absolutely. So we still have the challenge going on, our $1,000 emergency savings challenge. You can go to moneytalkschallenge.com to sign up for the challenge. You can also get that calculator, and you can also get the book on Amazon. It will route you there. If you want to go directly over to Amazon, go to bit.ly/Money Talks V as in Victor 3. bit.ly/Money Talks V3.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we hope some of the viewers end up going to your brunch in January. Thank you so much for sharing your financial advice, and
Thank you.
much success with your book.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Take care.
Okay. Well, good night. Well, that is the end of the show for this week. Couple of things before we sign off. Stephanie Burnham won the book. So Stephanie, it will be on its way to you. And for those who haven't gotten their copy yet, get a copy of Exodus from Treachery. It's getting great reviews. This is my latest book. It came out less than a month ago. That's it for this week. And I am signing off. Gwen Richardson. I'm sure my host will be here next week. You all have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.